Hi everyone, I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Today's video we're going to be touching on something completely new in comparison to my last videos. If you have any interest in the roguelike deck building game called Slay the Spire, please check out my channel page. I've made some videos on tips and builds on how to succeed in your runs. I just want to mention I enjoyed the few comments left from the previous videos. It really offered me some perspective on how to play Slay the Spire. Now getting back on track. Imagine yourself back in the 90s and early 2000s and just finishing a long day of school, or bored on a weekend because the weather outside is unappealing. The first thing that probably comes to any adolescent's mind would be to play a video game, right? And out of all the video game genres, the real-time strategy, also known as the RTS, would definitely hit first. Although it originated in the 80s, its golden era was in the mid-90s and up until the early 2000s. But why is it that today you hardly even hear about this genre anymore? For that, there are many reasons, and we need to first clarify what makes a video game an RTS. You can interpret it from part of its name, real time, meaning gameplay is not determined by turns and that each player is free to progress at any moment. And the strategy portion can mean that players are given limited amount of resources and area to build assets to efficiently defeat the enemy and look after the well-being of their own. The usage of the word real-time strategy was not actually used as a genre for the first known game to meet the criteria. But clearly the first ancestral game of the RTS was called Utopia by Mattel Electronics. Played on the Intellivision console, this game was released in 1982. Very briefly, it consists of two players each having their own island to build and compete amongst one another for collecting the most resources. The resources are either farmed or collected with one fishing boat each player controls. You also have to look after the population by ensuring they are fed, have schools, or else rebel activity can grow and destroy your civilization, causing you to lose points. The player with the highest point total after the chosen amount of rounds wins. At first this may not seem like an RTS as no real direct conflict can be made by either of the players. But the basic aspect of free-flowing gameplay, efficient resource collection, and population well-being are immensely present. The next game is probably what you imagine being the first RTS game created, which is reasonable in a sense that the term RTS was first used to market this game. Dune 2, developed by Westwood Studios, is a single-player game that has you choose between the three houses on the planet Arrakis to shed dominance over the other two.
Atreides unit destroyed.
This is the first step of RTS introducing AI as the other player that you must overcome. Spice is the resource that must be collected to gain credits, the currency to be able to purchase buildings that will help you grow your assets and dominate the other houses.
Construction complete.
Direct conflict is also introduced and is mandatory in order to progress on your missions. The reason why I say this game is often named the foundation of RTS is that you can find these key elements in Dune 2 present in all RTS games. The mouse cursor is used to issue commands, resource gathering, building and unit construction, building upgrades and dependencies, also known as tech trees, and finally, faction unique units and buildings. However, primitive elements such as being able to select only one unit at a time and lack of production queues are present, and often you are left wasting a lot of time just waiting for production to be complete in order to further develop your base and military. I just want to say that this is not a knock on the game. In fact, it had a big jump for RTSs in comparison to its predecessors. And although the gameplay is outdated, frustrating, and boring at times for today's gamers, we have to understand that in the 90s this was groundbreaking for the video game industry. Fast forwarding a couple of years later, we have our next RTS that for sure has made some memories with a rich storyline that is still going on until present day. Warcraft Orcs and Humans, also known as Warcraft 1, is the first game of the Warcraft series developed by Blizzard Entertainment. It was developed to run on MS-DOS and classic Mac OS. It has a single-player campaign that allows you to choose between two factions, the civilized humans of Azeroth or the savage invading orcs, each having their own somewhat unique units and buildings that are used to take down the AI playing enemy. The AI is similar to that of Dune 2's, but it is much more comprehensive because it launches its attacks using more tools at its disposal. Constant spellcasting, infantry upgrades, and launching attacks on multiple fronts are many examples of the upgrade in AI from Dune 2.
My lord. Yes. Your will. Yes. Yes, my lord. Yes, my
Multiple
lord.
units are now able to be selected, although only 4 at a time, I will say that the pathfinding in this game is inferior to that of Dune 2. Commanding your units to a farther point of the map may end up having them stuck in front of an obstacle such as trees, caverns, or water. And this can be very frustrating and time consuming to constantly have to click shorter movement commands.
Yes.
Warcraft 1 has also pitched in its fair share to the RTS name. It is one of the first to have multiplayer capability without sharing the same screen. It uses a dial-up modem or local network. It also introduced campaigns where you are given a fixed number of units and have to venture in the cavern depths to save allied units or invade a large enemy base. These specific campaigns can take a lot of time and multiple efforts in order to succeed, since your attack strategy must be approached with caution. This by far was the most difficult game I played out of the classic RTSs in this video, because on top of a clunky command system, the AI is just relentless in their attacks. Setting all the negatives aside from the game, we still need to keep in mind that we are on the early stages of the RTS development, and the few new additions were still an important part to the total RTS picture. With the success of Warcraft, Orcs and Humans, and about a year after its release, came a sequel, Warcraft 2, The Tides of Darkness. The Orcs had just finished decimating the human kingdom of Azeroth, and the humans now retreated to their neighboring companions in Lordaeron, had the task once again of protecting their kingdom from a ruthless Orc invasion. A story that already has its viewers on their toes and intrigued. The humans, who are basically the game players, should always end up winning, right? The in-game visuals were slightly cartoonish but detailed as if they were drawn by hand. And the music was a perfect mix of intensity and relaxation to get you pumped up for the great battles to come. The sound effects throughout the game just had you smiling at times.
I warned you. Unemare valematus.
On top of a memorable, well-put-together story, Warcraft 2 had many new introductions to the RTS gameplay. The difficulty level of competing against the opponent rose significantly when a Fog of War was introduced. Fog of War is the darkened areas of the discovered portion of the map that do not show the location of the enemy troops. It is removed when your troops move to that area. This raises the difficulty because you are not able to constantly see what the enemy is brewing up. You will need to scout frequently. Multi-unit selection became click and drag and increased its capacity to 9, allowing attack invasions to be more lethal. When you have selected your units, the attack command is no longer needed to be clicked, and you can simply click an enemy unit or building instead. The attack area was not introduced until the later Battle.net edition, which is the version I'm currently showing you, released in 1999. The pathfinding when you order your units to move to a location has improved from Warcraft 1, but I still find they'll get stuck when you send them to distant locations across the map. The introduction of naval forces and army transportation through large bodies of water is noticeably marketed on the cover, where the orc is wearing a pirate headband and the human is wearing a tricorn and holding a cutlass. The introductory cinematic showing the orcs attacking using their ships is also another hint.
The orcs constructed ships of war.
And one of the most enjoyable new additions is the map editor, allowing you to create whatever type of scenario you wish. You can recreate the terrain from land to islands or heavy forested areas. You're able to customize the unit statistics such as attack damage, hit points, armor, and so forth. The Fantasy RTS was even more of a success than its previous one, both critically and financially, and because of this, an expansion was released called Beyond the Dark Portal in 1996. The humans have succeeded in driving the orc back and destroy their portal, only to soon find out a new rift and many new portals have been opened. The Human Alliance decide to choose a group of heroes and their armies to venture in this new world, Beyond the Dark Portal. A small but new introduction to the RTS genre were the playable heroes, who were stat-boosted versions of regular units. Warcraft 2 multiplayer was also present and further improved in the Battle.net edition, where the players are able to play a scenario together through their free online multiplayer service without the usage of a wire connection or local area network. In that same year, Westwood Studios, who has now become Blizzard's competitor in the RTS scene, released another RTS, but a newly created series in an alternate universe.
4 weeks blamed on Nod terrorists.
Command & Conquer, a modern warfare RTS that has you choose between two factions, the Global Defense Initiative, GDI, and the terrorist cult, the Brotherhood of Nod. These two bitter enemies seek to harvest the game's one resource called Tiberium, but each to different extents. While Tiberium is a useful resource that can produce precious metals in-game called credits, it has a negative impact on the planet. When refined, toxic gases are released and can be fatal to all organisms on the planet.
Like a sponge.
But the Brotherhood of Nod, obsessed by its extraterrestrial nature, oversees that and wishes to embrace its usage.
Harvesting Tiberium to further expand our collective beliefs.
Command & Conquer maintains most of the newly added RTS features from Warcraft 2, such as multi-unit selection with click and drag, slightly improved pathfinding, although they still have their issues of getting stuck in far-out dispatches. Better interface of allowing you to easily scroll through the map.
Construction complete. Reinforcements have arrived.
And being able to click enemy units and buildings to initiate an attack rather than clicking the attack command beforehand.
Yes, sir. Yes, acknowledged.
But Command & Conquer does have its differences and had added some cool new features found in RTSs even until today. Unit health bars are visible on selected units, which makes it convenient for the game player to reorganize attack formations and gives you a better indication of when to repair vehicles without having to constantly select the units. To note, infantry healing is not present in this game.
Repairing. Construction
A much improved AI has been implemented where older strategies, such as flanking and luring enemy units into a massive line of ranged units, can no longer be used. Though the AI has been improved to increase difficulty and challenge, the game lacks one common RTS component introduced in Warcraft 2, and that is used in modern RTS, the Fog of War. Command & Conquer has more faction-exclusive tech tree and units, unlike Warcraft 2 where the unit differences are mostly in appearance. For instance, the GDI have more heavy and slow units that are more durable, while the Nod have lighter, faster, and more fragile units. These differences will allow you to choose a faction that best suits your RTS style. The success of Command & Conquer has been proved both financially by selling over 3 million copies worldwide to date, and critically as it won over Warcraft 2 for the best strategy game by PC Gamer US in 1995. Multiplayer connectivity was similar to that of Warcraft 2, in that only LAN and direct wiring were available. One slight difference that was unusual at the time was being able to have up to 4 players in a multiplayer match. Let's take a moment to quickly note that these aforementioned RTSs are considered the pioneer blueprints of the genre, which are often labeled as the classic RTS. Their gameplay was very primitive and definitely outdated due to their clunkiness and lack of automation and queues. You don't often see gamers today play these classic RTS, unless in their remastered forms, and even then they can still feel boring at times. But we cannot forget that in order for the RTS to go through a golden age, which I'll show you some examples of on the next video, these developments were necessary, and although they seem frustrating to us now, most gamers then did not mind. The extra tasks such as constantly clicking to recruit, always checking on inactive worker units, and having to click an enemy unit each time to attack rather than an area, all just felt like it was part of an RTS game.
Units destroyed.
The golden age of RTS will be coming up on the next video. There you'll definitely find multiple RTSs you have played and enjoyed. What are your thoughts on the classic RTS I've chosen? Were one or more of these games memorable for you growing up? Let me know what you think about the reasoning behind the lack of player base for the classics, and do you still play any of these games now? I really appreciate the time you took to watch the video, and I hope you tune into the next part of the RTS timeline series. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. It will at least give me an indication that I'm doing something right. And if you don't like the video, comment why. I think I have thick enough skin to take some constructive criticism. Thank you for watching.